this is an interview I've wanted for a long time. Always respected this man for many, many years. He's one of the greatest boxing trainers of all time, such as Terry Norris, Miguel González, and obviously Triple G, Gennady Golovkin. It's an honour to have Abel Sanchez as a guest on Ringside Seat with Tassie.
I'm happy to be here with you, Grant.
How's life, Abel?
You know what? It's very good. I'm getting up in age, but it seems to be a very happy life at this point in my career.
Yeah, you've I feel like you've probably disappeared for a little bit, but you've come back with a vengeance. Lately you've been out a few of the Saudi shows. You're back training a few of the fighters and up at Big Bear. And do you feel like you're sort of a bit more redeemed in the sport, or maybe had a nice little break and now you're back?
Well, you know what? At one point in 219, 220, I think I needed a break. So I sold the gym that I had before to Jaime Mundia, I think in 21, and I took a little time off. I started playing a little golf. I figured out I wasn't going to make it on a PGA tour, so so I bought me another piece of property up here in Big Bear and made another gym. I'm talking from it now. And I'm rejuvenated. I think I have some good kids right now, and it's fun again.
No, that's the thing, Abel. When you've been in the sport as long as you have, it's about having it fun again. And as I said, you've done it all in the game. As I said, I'm not just saying it. You're renowned as one of the greatest trainers, and I've always I said I've been in your presence before, but never really got to meet you properly. But you always seem like one of the gentlemen of the game as well, mate. For my viewers, let's just go back to where it started. How did you come involved in this great sport of boxing?
Well, if you go all the way back, I started kickboxing back in 78, 79, and I went into a boxing gym who was run by who is my assistant now, Ben Lira, in Del Monte, California. And I fell in love. I fell in love with the sport. I started training there. I fought several times, but I was trying to run a business. I'm a building contractor here in California. I've been a building contractor since I was 18 years old, so it was difficult for me to run a business and train at the same time, so I had to give one of them up. So I gave it up after about 4 years. So in 82, I went back to doing a lot of construction. And in 86, I came back. A friend of mine asked me to work with him, Lupe Aquino, and in 4 fights, I had him at a world title. When I got back from our fight in France, 2 kids approached me, or their manager approached me, who was the same manager Lupe Aquino had, a kid named Terry Norris and Orlin Norris, early in their careers. So I was able to, the first 3 guys out of the gate made world champions. The next young man, while I was in San Diego, was a young man named Paul Vaden, whose people approached me when he had about 9 fights, and he eventually became a world champion also. I trained Jesus Salud down there. I trained several people down there. Then in about 93, 94, I wanted to know more about the business side of boxing. So I went to work for Don King Productions. I worked with him for about 2.5 years. I learned so much about the business, the back end of it, I guess you could say. And I started training a young man named Miguel González, who eventually went on to fight Oscar, and we had 3 or 4 fights together. I think our last fight together was against Costa, Tim's father. And then I retired in the game for a little while, came back in 2000, trained Frans Botha to a couple fights, a couple world title fights. And then again, because of the business end of it, having to provide for my family, I went back to just construction. About 2000, I bought a bunch of property up here in Big Bear. Emmanuel Stewart was up here at the time, and I thought I'd build a gym for him because he's a very good friend of mine. So I bought a property, built a big complex, 2-story complex, 2 big houses and a gym. He unfortunately, his schedule never permitted him to be here in Big Bear for too long. He trained Oscar and trained a couple other guys up here, but he was so busy that he couldn't stay up here. So I didn't open it as a gym. I left it alone, and my kids used the facility for like a resort house. It's a ski resort town, so they use it for vacations and stuff. In about 2008, I decided that Actually, 2007, my son and I decided we're going to convert it into a gym and loan it to our friends. The first young man to train here was a young man named Jose Navarro back in 2008. He
Yep.
fought he fought Mijares at the MGM, so he trained here in February. And then Oscar used it in December when he fought Pacquiao. People started finding out that I had a gym up here, so I started getting a lot of calls. And in 2010, around April or May, Golovkin's people called me up, and then it took off.
There you go. Well, going back, mate. Look, I love Terry Norris. He was one of my favourite fighters. I've had him on the podcast, and he was an amazing 154 world champion. I mean, he was that dominant, one of the most explosive fighters, and obviously Orlin was good as well. But tell me about your time with Terry, mate, and what he meant to you as a fighter.
You know, it was training Terry was a lot of fun because he was so unpredictable. Uh, his uh, his father once told me that he thought when he was a kid he was claustrophobic. So when he was in an elevator, it felt like he was caged in. So he kind of related that to the ring. You know, he had he had the ropes around him, and he felt like he was caged in. And he fought I'm not going to say out of desperation at the beginning, but he fought as somebody is cornered, and he was always moving. He was always thinking. I love training Terry just because he was so unpredictable. Unfortunately, after I left, I think trained, sparred, and worked a little too hard, and it affected him in his later life. But I took him to, I think, 9 defenses. We won the title and had 9 defenses. So we did real well together. I really enjoyed my time with him.
Yeah, mate, so much. See, my first fight as an amateur was in 1991 when I was 13, and so my era was the 90s. So Pernell, Whitaker, Chavez, Wilgie Taylor, Terry Norris, they're all, my era. So I really love
Great
Terry.
time.
Yeah.
Great time.
What an era. Also too, so let's talk about Miguel Angel González. Obviously, Costa Zoo, and I'm very close to Costa, have been for many years. He always says the fight against González was his best fight. He reckons that was his best performance. I mean, he had so many great ones, but obviously, yeah, talk me through that fight against Costa, and obviously the mindset going into it. You obviously knew what you're up against, and then obviously how the fight played out.
Yeah, well, you know, for that fight, unfortunately, we had some issues prior to the fight, not only weight issues, but a couple injuries. We were able to make them better by fight time, but we took some time to heal them and to be able to do the work that we needed to do in the gym. The weight was an issue for him. He was getting up in age. So by the time we got to Florida, of course, we made weight, but it was difficult for him. I thought Costa at the time was unbelievable. Um, as the fight went on, he comes back to the corner, and I'm trying to instruct him, and I'm trying to listen to what he's saying and watch his mannerisms. And he was okay. He was doing well. He wasn't getting caught with big shots. He was defending himself. But by the middle of the fight, I noticed that he started to do things that wasn't Miguel. He started not committing fouls, but just doing things that were just out of the norm for him. I gave him, there were some people behind me that were friends of his that were very concerned. And obviously, out of the corner of my ear, I'm listening to what they're saying, and because they were quite loud. And I admonished him in the corner a couple of times. And in the seventh, I said, I'm going to let it go one more. If you don't move your hands, if you don't do this, if you don't do that. And he didn't give me what I wanted to see. He didn't do what I wanted him to do. And he started just doing close to fouls, elbows and hitting a little low. And that to me was a sign of desperation more than anything. And I didn't feel like Costa, like we were going to get to Costa. Well, I didn't think we were going to knock him out. So we were losing the fight, and I felt it was in Miguel's best interest and in the interest of the sport, just to make sure that he didn't take a total shellacking. So I made the decision in the corner because he wasn't giving me what I wanted to stop the fight. But I would rather stop a fight a punch too early than a punch too late. You know.
That's totally 100%. And some trainers don't do that, and that's what that's why we have so many unfortunate things in boxing where the fighters end up they lose their life or their later on in life they have effects. So obviously Costa was on fire at that time, and probably what you probably meant too by the fouls. And sometimes a fighter, he doesn't want to quit and he doesn't want to get knocked out, but he might start doing things like fouling. Sometimes there's a way out. Sometimes maybe So yeah.
Yeah, when a guy's in his prime, like he was at that time, there was no sense in prolonging what was inevitable. At the end of the fight, we're going to lose the fight. We're so far back that we'd need to knock Costa down a couple times for us to even be competitive in the fight. So I just felt it was the best thing to do.
Was you in his corner when he fought Chavez, González?
Yes.
That was a draw. So I'd have to watch that one back. I did hear it at the time. It was quite controversial. Do you agree that you thought Miguel won it?
Yeah, it was controversial. I felt we won. I believe some judges felt we won, but the great Chavez is going to be hard to beat in Mexico City. But I felt we done well. Like I said, I felt we won, and unfortunately, we didn't get the recognition for it. But Chavez and Miguel were great fighters, both of them.
And tell me about Chavez's. I mean, I got to meet him a few years ago. Absolutely loved it. Tell me about his impact on Mexican boxing. And for those that sort of more casual fans don't really know how much Chavez means to the Mexican people.
I think that Chavez will always be the greatest in the Mexican people's mind, at least in my mind anyway, for what he did and how he did it. Right now, Canelo obviously is done great. He just got beat, but he's done great. Canelo's done more for Mexican boxing, I think, that a lot of fighters have. He's brought a lot of money to our country, a lot of fame to our country, but Chavez will always be the people's hero, the idol. Just the way he went about his business. It was all about work. It was all about the common man. And I think that his legacy will live on forever.
I agree. What was it, 120 or 130,000 versus Greg Haugen?
132,000, I think. It was a record. It was a record at that stadium. But hey, that's going to be hard to beat.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you another great Mexican. I think he's definitely up there in the conversation. If not one, maybe two or three, is Ruben Olivares.
I'm a little too young in the sport to have seen him fight live or to have seen him fight in his career when he was dominating. One of my favorite fighters of all time is Alexis Arguello.
Oh, love Alexis.
For us, for us Mexicans, Alexis was able to beat Ruben. But Ruben's a great fighter. Again, a common man that the people just took to him. Unfortunately, he lost to my favorite fighter of all time, but he was a great fighter also. But so was Salvador Sanchez. We never got to see, really. We never got to see what he could have been. He was so young. What could he have done, and in how many weight divisions?
That was the next one I was going to say. And what about those Barrera Morales fights, especially the first one? I mean, God, I watch that on repeat. Abel.
Yeah, no, a great fighter. I love to watch all those old fights. In fact, I'll sit here in the gym when we're not training, and I'll put some old reels on YouTube, obviously, and watch some of the old fights. And it's quite interesting how styles have changed, but what warriors we had back then.
Oh, 100%. And I'm only 47, Abel, but I'm a third generation boxer, my father and grandfather, and the only conversation at the dinner table when I was a child was boxing. And obviously I competed, amateur, professional. Now I'm a coach and promoter. But I try and educate these young people about the guys we just spoke about, Lex Arguello, and even go back to like the Ray Robinsons, the Willie Peps. But Arguello, I loved his style, and I had Boom Boom Mancini on here as a guest as well. And obviously, Arguello was so beautifully sound and such a great puncher, even though he was so wiry and lanky, but he just had such great power, and he's definitely one of the greatest. Yeah.
I want to say that I think I tailored my my training style or my philosophy a lot on how he fought. I loved his left hand. He had such an educated left hand that when he threw the right hand, it was because it was to finish things. his left hand was something that I thought was magical. So I tried to do a lot of the combinations that he did. I like to use the left hand like he did. It was more not so much because of who he fought, but just how he fought that I really, really appreciated watching. And I watch those tapes. I watch the Rooney fight all the time just to show my guys how to set things up. But to me, he was one of the greatest. And in my mind, like I said, I fashioned my style a little bit from him.
Not a bad style to take after, mate. I tell all my fighters, educated left hand is the best way to be. You unlock the door with the key, and you set up your power hand. So, yeah. Also, too. So obviously, I mean, for the, I guess you're probably in modern times you're more remembered for the great career life. The journey you had with Triple G, Gennady Golovkin. One of the best fighters, best middleweights of all time. And obviously he'll go down in history. And I believe he's just being nominated for the Hall of Fame, which is, more than definitely what he deserves. Tell me about the experience. Tom Lofton is a good friend of yours too, and Tom was the one that gave me your contact actually. So explain it through the journey with Triple G, one of the greatest, trainer boxer journeys that we've had.
His people called me, like I said, back in 2010. I got a chance to meet him. He came back, we started training, and we went on a 23 knockout run. I think it was 3 fights after I joined him that Tom Loeffler joined our group, and Tom was able to do the things that were needed on that end of it, the promotional part of it.
Great guy, Tom. Great guy.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Not only the promotional part of it, but the sponsorships and all that, and the meetings. And Tom's the kind of guy that he works with everybody. He's not mad at anybody. He doesn't badmouth anybody. He's always got in a great mood. He's always a businessman. So it was easy. It was an easy route for us because of the kind of relationship we had with Tom. Tom did it on the outside, and we did it in the ring. And I worked with Gennady about 9.5 years, and his 2 managers, Oleg and Max Hermans, they were able to generate with Tom the kind of publicity and the kind of fights and the kind of following that we needed for Gennady, because he was unknown when he first came here. Obviously, he was a silver medalist in the Olympics, but he really was unknown in America. He was with a company called Universum at the time. I think that contract had expired or something like that. And when he came here, it was new to him, and he fell in love with Big Bear. So it was easy. It was an easy transition for him because it reminded him home, and he had a gym to himself where he could practice and we could do the things that we wanted to do to develop what eventually became Gennady Golovkin, or Triple G.
Yeah, unbelievable, mate. Yeah, look, he obviously from Kazakhstan, and obviously I think he had quite a lot of his fights in Germany before he come to America. Tell me about, I mean, there's so many magical moments. Pick out a few of your favourite moments, with Gennady and some of the most memorable fights.
I think one of my favorite fights with him was Curtis Stevens. Because I think it showed me a lot of fire, a lot of the anger that I think a lot of these boys have to have in order to be successful. He's a nice guy, and I remember him saying one time that he's Gennady Golovkin outside the ring. When he steps to the rope, he's Triple G. It's a totally different persona, And in that fight, it showed me not only his anger, but his restraint. And I remember Curtis Stevens saying a lot of bad stuff and posting a lot of bad stuff on the internet about him and about his family and about his brother. And G was not only gonna knock him out, but he was in his mind, he was gonna punish him. And there was moments in that fight in the second and third round after he knocked him down that I saw Gennady not pull back so much, but just throw punches just to make sure that he understood who was in charge and how difficult this was going to be for him. If the corner had not stopped the fight in Curtis's corner, he would have been really, really hurt, because Gennady was not in the mood to knock somebody out. He was in the mood just to make you suffer. And so I think that showed me a lot about his character and a lot about his meanness and what it is that I believe you have to have in order to be successful in this game.
100%. One of the fights I like when he fought David Lemieux, obviously a big puncher himself, and Triple G, he fought a very smart fight, which was, I'm sure he was behind the plan. His left lead was all night. His left hand was set just because you still had to be dangerous for Lemieux. You couldn't overcommit. So Triple G sort of was great with the left hand to set him up for his power shots. And tell me a little bit about that fight and the game plan.
Yeah, well, David, obviously a big puncher. But our plan was to diffuse him, to let him just diffuse little by little, and in the middle of the fight, take it more to him. But the jab, people don't understand. This young man had 350 amateur fights. I'm talking about Gennady, and he lost 5 as an amateur. So he knew how to box. He had a great jab, and he used it very well in this fight. But I think another big strength for him was his patience and his timing of his shots. He was a big puncher, yes, but he threw the shots when they had to be thrown, and how they had to be thrown. So that was very beneficial. And it's very difficult to find guys like that, to have the patience to be able to do that inside the ring. David, we knew by the middle of the fight, was going to be diminishing in not only in power, but in strength, because he was going to be beat down little by little. And actually that became a blueprint for another fighter that I had at the time, named Murat Gassiev, who ended up fighting Dorticos. And we did this, we kind of implemented the same kind of plan with Dorticos, to let him diffuse himself early in the fight and then come on. So yeah, those are fights that are have to be planned, and they have to be executed. And the guy's got to have enough confidence in himself and in his ability and his training regimen to be able to implement those kind of fights.
100%. And is it safe to say at the time, at the peak of Triple G's career, he couldn't get Sergio Martinez in the ring or Miguel Cotto? They were 2 of the names that eluded him.
Yeah, but Tom did such a great job in getting us the fights that would put us out there, that would give us not only the platform, but the ability to continue the trek and hopefully land those fights in the future. You have to stay busy, and that's the one thing that is very important, is not happening today, I don't think, in a lot of careers, is it not busy enough. You can't fight once a year and have a great career.
Yeah.
I think with Gennady, Tom was getting us 4 or 5 fights a year, or 3 or 4 fights a year, I should say. And even when he was in his heyday, in title fights, we were getting 2 or 3 fights a year.
Yeah.
That's very important. And it wasn't so much because Gennady was older. It's just that a fighter can't sit on a shelf like that, can't sit on a shelf and wait. You have to be in the ring. Yes, you can be in the gym training and sparring, but it's not the same as playing in the game.
I always say to my boxers, inactivity kills fighters. You got to be active. Obviously, too. Well, that's the thing. I mean, he was quite busy. He actually fought an Australian friend of mine in my hometown, Daniel Gill.
Yes, yes. Daniel Gill was an interesting fight. I don't know if you. I think that was one of the fights where we had a 4-minute round. And the first round was a 4-minute round. And I think one of the photographers tripped Daniel in the fight with his cord. But yeah, Daniel was an interesting fight leading up to the knockout. A lot of circumstances there that could have been bad for both guys. But Gennady was able to land, after Daniel landed a pretty good shot, was able to land, and that's how strong Gennady was. That's his confidence in himself, and in his ability, and his confidence in his chin, that the shot landed, never blinked, and was able to land his at full force.
I think they kind of almost landed at the same time. I remember it well, obviously, watching it. Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, Daniel Gill, great fighter. He beat, obviously, Felix Sturm and Sebastian Silvestre, 2-time world champion in Germany. He went there twice and won more titles, which is hard enough to go to Germany and win one more title, as you know, Abel.
Yes. Well, Daniel, and that's the thing. The unfortunate thing for Gennady is that we fought a lot of champions, ex-champions, and great fighters, but they weren't that known here in the States. If we would have fought Cotto, like you said, or Martinez, who was a champion here, some of those guys, maybe his rise to stardom, I want to say, would have been quicker. Yeah. But we fought a lot of great fighters. I mean, he beat some very good fighters. And not only beat them, but he beat them up.
He did. Let's get on to the Canelo fights. Obviously the first 2. Let's talk about the first fight. Abel, please break me down that fight. A lot of controversy. It was a draw, pretty much. everyone I know thought Gennady won the fight, including myself. Tell me your thoughts on it, mate. I know you've gave your interviews after the fight and for years now, but you tell my viewers about the first fight with Canelo.
Well, we had the luck, I guess you could say, or the chance to spar Canelo here in our gym 3 or 4 times when he was in his 20s. And you remember those things. I had him on tape, and you go back and you look at him, and we knew back then that Canelo was going to end up being something special. But I thought that in order to beat a Canelo, you have to press him. You have to press him. You have to keep him thinking. You have to make sure that you have a jab in his face, and you have to be aggressive, not so much reckless, but aggressive with him. You can't let him get started. And I think in the losses that he's had since those fights that we had with him, those people have done that to him. They don't let him get started. We were able to press him and manipulate the fight in a way that benefited us. I thought we won. We had a crazy judge. It had us losing 10 rounds out of 12. It was ridiculous. But still, I have to look at it in this way, that if we lose the fight, then we lost the fight. If we win a fight, then we have to win a fight, because I don't particularly think that if you give me a fight today, and if I have a fight next week with another fighter and I lose that fight and you give it to me too, I'm going to say that I lost, or I'm going to say that I won. It's going to be difficult for me to be a hypocrite. So in order for me to admit that we lost, I'm going to say we lost. In this particular fight, I think that we won. I think that we won the fight handily. I think we won it by 3 or 4 rounds. In the second fight, I think that he was reading and he was listening to the people telling him about the internet. People were saying that he can't box. This man had 350 amateur fights. He can box. He can jab. He can do a lot of things inside the ring. He doesn't have to be a puncher. Just because we had 17 or 18 knockouts in a row at the time doesn't mean that he can't box. So he started believing and started reading that hype. And in the second fight, he wanted to box Canelo. And in my opinion, I think that's why we lost that fight, according to the judges. I believe we won both, but let's just say that we lost it because of the judges. And his jab was magnificent in that fight. But when you're a judge and you've watched this young man fight 16, 17 times, and he's pressing and he's knocking people out and he's pushing people away and being able to handle them easily, and all of a sudden you see him in a completely opposite or different manner, you tend to think that he's losing. You tend to think that maybe the other guy's winning because the other guy's aggressive. So I think that's what hurt us in that fight. And if you watch the fight in probably the 3rd or 4th round in the corner, I whispered into his ear, I said, gee, we cannot box this guy. We have to fight this guy. We have to back this guy up. We cannot box him like this. This is not how we need to fight him. But my intent was to do the same thing as we did in the first fight. In his mind, I think he felt like he needed the boxing.
I totally agree. As I said, I remember there was a lot said about Canelo not fighting like a Mexican in the first fight, like him being on the back foot. So I think he was really wanted to fight like a Mexican and be on the front foot. And yeah, when you're pushing the guy like, well, not so much pushing him back, but Triple G wanted the box. It did make it look like exactly what you said. Judges would look for that, and I believe that you were right. Obviously, Triple G should have stuck to what he'd done in the first fight and just tried to push him back. But I mean, that's the problem. I think him wanted to move and box. He should have just. I've always got a saying: if it's not broke, don't fix it. The first fight, he really won it. Didn't get the decision. Second fight, he allowed Canelo win that fight, and it made it closer than what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, G had a way of doing things in the ring prior. You're getting ready to think what to do, and he's hitting you before that thought comes into your head. So he just had the timing so perfect, and his positioning was always so good that you never got started. So with Canelo, before that thought could be implemented that he was thinking, G was already hitting him in the first fight. In the second fight, he waited for Canelo to be the one that was the active one. And if you look at Canelo's last 2 losses against Bivol never let him think. Bivol was on him. And now Terrence, perfect game plan. I thought really Canelo was going to...
I've got to say something. I saw your interviews. I've become very good friends with Botha. I had him in Australia in May. We've done a 5-day tour. We've become very good friends at the WC convention last year, and I saw a few of your interviews, and I thought, oh well, you're in for a surprise, because I knew he'd do what he done. I knew his mindset. I know the weight and all that stuff, but I know Canelo is not throwing as many punches now. He's sort of maybe. I knew Bud was hungry, and I always tell everyone he's like Michael Jordan. Bud believes no one is in his league, and so far he can say that.
Yeah, but you know what? My mistake. I didn't take into consideration. I didn't take into consideration that Canelo's fighting all these big guys that he can just tee off on. All these big guys that are slow. All these big guys that are not a slow of foot, not only slow of foot, but slow thinking too. And so he's fighting all these big guys that he can just sit there and tee off. And then you have Bud that's coming up 140. Now, my concern was, can he go to 12?
Yeah.
Okay, can he go to 12 in a manner that I knew at the beginning that he was going to be difficult the first 3 or 4 rounds because of speed, because of smaller weight.
Yeah.
My concern was, could he go to 12? And I didn't think it through enough to think that if he does go 12 and he continues to be able to do what he was doing at the first 3 or 4 rounds, it could be difficult for Canelo. And it ended up being just that. He was able to go 12, and I believe in the 9th or 10th, he was able to really put it in 4th gear and go on and kind of try to close the show.
Well, thank God he had to, mate. Look at the judges again. I don't know how they had it 7-5, 2 judges. And, I mean, if one of them rounds, if Canelo won one of them last 2 rounds, it's a draw. So then we're talking, we're giving boxing another black eye, which we don't need. I mean, I always said, and I love Canelo, I respect Canelo, you know, he's a legend, but he had trouble with Edison Lara. That was a very, you know, controversial fight. Mayweather beat him hands down, even though one judge gave it a draw. She got sacked, Adelaide Bird. And Bivol, with his feet and you know, pressure, but in and out, he wouldn't get suckered in. Bivol, he done what he had to do. When Canelo tried to wave him onto the ropes, he just stood his ground. So guys that are intelligent with fast feet, as you said, I'm not knocking any boxers, but Belanga, slow feet, probably slow mind. Munguia, you know, all these guys are not really up to it. And like you just said, someone with Crawford's speed and Crawford's will to win. Yeah, it was great.
Not only his will to win, I think that his intelligence, his IQ in there is just he you know, they come along once in a great while, those great ones like that. Ray Leonard was another one, you know, just and yes, Canelo was very good at that weight. But his kryptonite is the smaller, faster guy. I mean, or the smart, faster guy. It could be a bigger guy too, as in Bivol. You're not gonna knock Canelo out. You're gonna beat him like that, but you're not gonna knock him out. And they did it perfectly, both Bivol and Terrence. Like I said, I thought Terrence fought a great fight. But I've said for a long, long time, believe it or not, I've said, and you go back in the interviews when I've talked about Crawford, there's a young man that works the mitts in his camp. I forget his name now, but he's a Latin young man.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I watched him work the mitts, and I love the way that he does. He's not working the mitts for show. He's working the mitts to teach. And that's what we're missing. In fact, when we were in Vegas, because we fought on the same card with a couple kids, when we were in Vegas, I went up to him and I said, you know, I don't know if you ever seen the videos. I mean, he's really not known. I'm not gonna say he's nobody because he's a great coach, but he's not known in the group. But to me, that has a lot to do with how Terrence does what he does inside the ring.
I met him in Riyadh at the press conference for Canelo. Yeah, he's a great guy, and yeah, you know, he's very doesn't get the credit he deserves. As a Mexican, so you've got no horse in this race, but did Canelo duck Benavidez when Benavidez was his mandatory 2 years interim WBC champion and could not get the fight at super middleweight and had to go up?
Well, you know, being in a position that I was with Gennady, we went through that with several fighters. We went through that, he's ducking this guy, he's ducking that guy, but yet we keep fighting. I think the Benavidez early on, and if you go back and look at my interviews, early on, him and his group, were just handling it wrong. I mean, this guy is can call his own shots, and I'm talking about Canelo. So I think that you have to handle it in a way that is beneficial to you to get to that mountain. I mean, you start bad mouthing, you start talking smack about the guy you want to face, and he doesn't have to face you. Just like when Floyd was in his heyday, he'd fight who he wanted to fight. You're not going to tell me who I'm going to fight, you know. So I think that Benavidez handled it wrong. He could have had that fight if he had been different towards making it. You don't talk smack about the guy you're trying to get in the ring. That's my opinion. Went through it with
Yeah,
Gennady. Went through it with Gennady, so I can kind of see where Canelo was coming from. Listen,
yeah.
I'm driving the bus. If you want to get on the bus, you're gonna have to play along, and he just wasn't playing along.
That might change around now. He's in a good position. Benavidez, obviously, if he can capture another belt with a Bivol or now Bivol's got the other belts, obviously. You know, do you think though it's more maybe the fella that the risk of losing to another Mexican as well plays on Canelo's mind, or
No, I don't think so. I think that he got under his skin, and Canelo just put his foot down and says, "Screw it, I'm not gonna give him a chance. I'm not gonna give him a chance to make money." But listen, Benavidez was in my gym when he was about 16 years old, and he sparred with Gennady.
yes,
Uh,
yes,
and I've had 20 different people up there sparring with Gennady, and I think that he was probably one of the ones that gave Gennady the best work. And Gennady was never an abusive guy in the ring. I mean, he never tried to hurt anybody when he was sparring. He needed you to make sure that you sparred as hard as you could so that you could benefit him. So Benavidez, we knew Benavidez was going to be a great fighter eventually if he stuck to it, and if he his weight was a big problem back then. He was about
yeah.
190 pounds at 16 years old, but he was you could see he was going to be something special. But again, I think that you don't do what he did and 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 try to convince somebody at that level to give you a huge payday, because his payday would have been humongous, just like Terrence's.
No, I totally agree. And obviously, before we finish up, Abel, who have you currently got at the moment?
Right now, I got Philip Hrgovic, who just fought Adelaide in Saudi back August 16th. He had a big cut over his right eye, so now we got to wait a little bit to let it heal. We got offered a fight in December, and I suggested not to take it only because we may get cut in training, and then we have to postpone a fight, so it'd be just longer. So hopefully he'll fight in the first quarter of 2026. And then I have the three Saudi fighters, Abdullah, who fought on Wednesday night in that week. And then I have Sultan Mohammed that will fight the 22nd of November, and Mohammed Alakel, who would also fight
Yeah,
on 22nd. Then I have a young man here locally, Ronnie Mancia, who's 3-0. Well, I think he fights in November also. I'm going to have to kind of split myself there. Um, and we work with uh, oh heck, a Kazakhstani fighter. It kind of slipped my mind what the heck his name is. But anyway, he's at home right now. His wife is having a baby, so he's at home taking care of that. But so it's about 5 or 6 fighters that I have right now that are different weights, unfortunately. But if I had them all the same weight, they could all spar with each other, but they don't.
yeah. I met Janabek over in Saudi at one stage. What do you think of him? A great fighter, another Kazakhstan fighter.
Oh, unbelievable. There's 3 or 4 Kazakhstani fighters that are doing exceptionally well. You know, they got a great school. I said it a long, long time ago. They had a great school. I got a chance to be in Kazakhstan a couple times and go to the amateur gyms, and they have a great school. They have a great amateur school. They're very. In fact, a lot of the fighters from around the countries go there for their
Yeah,
training camps. So no, they have a great programs there.
they do. And also too, the state of boxing at the moment with the Saudis being heavily involved, Your Excellency Turkey, and you know everything that's happening lately. How is boxing at this time and place at the moment, in your opinion?
I think we're in a great spot. The unfortunate thing right now is that the stars, the big stars. They're stars, and then there's a lot of great fighters, a lot of great champions, but they're stars, and this sport is moved by stars. Are old. Terrence is what, 37,
Yeah.
38? So he's going to be gone. Canelo is at that age too. He's going to be gone. So who else is really left that can really drive the bus? There really is nobody. David is not, hasn't really had that
Nah, that's
signature
right.
fight. And
And
Bivol doesn't fight often enough. So
yeah, and he's not really as known in America. I mean, I love Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson, but they probably haven't transcended yet to, as you know, Abel, it's a different being known to us boxing fanatics, but being known to the general public is a bit different. I mean, Ryan Garcia is probably more well known than most, and no disrespect to Ryan, great fighter, but he hasn't won a world title yet, and he's more well known to the average fan.
right. And I think the difference today from say in those that heyday we're talking about is the great fighters fought each other. They fought each other. You know, today they don't want to fight each other. Today it's a business more than a sport, and because they don't want to fight each other, they're not making each other stars. You know, Ray Leonard, Benitez, Hagler, Duran, Burns. No, they all made each other stars. Yes, they lost, but you're supposed to lose. You're supposed to be vulnerable. Because I think that's what endears you to the fans.
Yeah.
When you're so dominant that you don't lose it, you don't get hit. Well, then you're boring. When you have, that's why Terry Norris was such a special guy for me going into the ring, because he was so unpredictable. You know, he'd get knocked out or knock somebody down or hit somebody when they were down. So we had controversies, and I think that's what drives the sport. No, I don't want to see fouls, but I think what drives the sport is something that's different.
They must have been frustrated those couple of fights with that fella with Terry. I was like, oh mate, I was finally got him. I'm thinking, oh, not again, you know, because he was on Terry's level, but he's got 2 DQs on his record now.
Yeah, well, when we fought, I think the last time that really happened to me was when we fought Ray Leonard. Remember when he knocks him down in the second round and Ray's on his butt, and he goes over and Ray kind of slips the shot, but and it happened almost to me again with Gennady when he fought Lemieux in the 4th or 5th round when Lemieux went down from a body shot, and then he didn't hit him as hard as Terry threw at Leonard, but still, these guys get so focused on the waist up that they really don't see. That's what Terry used to tell me. So, Coach, I see from the waist up. I don't see their feet. You know, so if they're there to be hit, they're going to get hit. So
That's right.
It was fun.
I'm actually bringing in 4 weeks. I've got the pleasure of bringing the Hands of Stone to Australia, Roberto Duran. I'm doing a Melbourne and Sydney tour meet and greet with him, so I'm looking forward to that.
You know, young fighters need to watch a lot of Duran's early fights. Not so much when he became a star with Leonard and Hearns and all those guys, but some of his early fights were his attitude inside the ring was that's that anger that I was talking about with Gennady. You have to have that in order to be successful or great in this sport, and he had that. And it's important, I think, for fighters to realize that people call it the sweet science, but in my opinion, it's not so much the sweet science as it's the guy in one corner wants to kick the heck out of the other guy, and the other guy wants to kick the heck out of this guy. So sweet science really goes out the window. In order for us to make stars and to make great fighters, I think that we need to realize that there's got to be that anger in there to try to destroy somebody.
Well, in the words of the legendary Ricky Hatton, may rest in peace, he said, "It's not a tickling contest, is it?"
That's absolutely right. You know, and if you realize that early on in your career, maybe you can develop into the type of fighter that is going to be a superstar.
No, that's it, Abel. Well, mate, listen, I want to thank you for your time. As I said, one of the best trainers that I've seen in the game, and it's been a really honour to have you on ringside seat with Tassie, and it's great talking boxing with you, Abel. Can I just ask this? One day, can I get an invite up to the big? I've been to America many times, many fights. I've never been to Big Bear.
You're invited, and we'll go to lunch, and we'll have a great time. You'll see the gym, and you'll see the surroundings. That's why people come up here. We have 4 seasons up here. You know, unlike in say down off the mountain where you have a hot summer and a warm winter, we have the 4 seasons up here. We see the leaves fall off the trees. And unfortunately, it gets a little cold in the wintertime, but it's really a safe, a fun place to be at. And for us to have a training camp here is even, it's like being in paradise.
Well, 226 is on my to-do list.
You're welcome here. Please come.
Thanks, Abel.